Well, hey, Vision. Okay, I'm trying to figure out, were you awing for my wife and daughter or for little Colton in the water? It was probably Colton, right? Colton, yeah. I awed for my wife. She was on the right there with the big old stingray or something was behind her. But anyways, I love this water series. I love seeing pictures of you guys up there. And how you feeling about school starting back up? Okay, okay. Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to getting everybody back in routines, but it does mean the end of the water series. We have enjoyed it, especially when Kevin Kolick and Brad Hart, they each brought a message, and God has taught us things about miracles through water and just the way he pours into us. He's living water. He cleans us. Today, we're talking about getting refreshed. Does anybody in here, like, if we're being real here today, like, do you feel like you need to be refreshed? Feeling me? Bunch of hands. Okay, have you had any time at all this year where you felt like I have needed to be refreshed? Yes, honestly, it's most of us at some point. Maybe you can think about a time in your life, whether physically you're like thirsty and you were like, playing a ball game or out, shooting ball with the guys, like, anybody got any water? Or you're hiking the mountain or you're, on a trek and you don't have enough to drink and you're like, I need to get refreshed. Or some people posted, said, we were, hiking up in Asheville somewhere and we didn't have enough to drink. We need to be refreshed. And somebody else posted spiritually. They said, man, I kind of stepped away from God. I didn't spend enough time with God, and I got in a position where spiritually I needed to be refreshed. And I'm like, that's great. You guys posting to let us know about refreshment in your life. Well, one guy, one of our visionaries, in case you missed it last Sunday night, he sat out there at the pool. He was so hot, and he was so tired that he had to get up on that diving board and said, I must be refreshed now. And I said, John, thank you for taking that moment for us and just posing with no shirt on, thinking this is not going to show up in church. And yes, it will. That will show up in church when you do that. But seriously now, if you got your takeaway card, pull it out. Or if you got it on your phone or your iPad, pull that out, because you will want to take the principles from today and use them to improve your life. I mean, that's a pretty good sales job right there. That the time we're going to spend right now, you take these principles, it will improve your life. I guarantee it. And the guy we're looking to, of course, is Jesus. Jesus, the Son of God, knew all about refreshment. This guy, Jesus, when he walked the planet, he knew that we as human beings need to get refreshed. He would come into people's lives and he would hang out with the outcast. The people that others would just kick to the curb, he'd spend time with them and refresh them. He'd go into homes of people and say, hey, let's spend time together. I want to get to know you. Let's build relationship. I want to work to refresh you. He would actually touch people that were physically so bad no one else would touch them, but he would touch them and refresh them. He would heal people. He would work in people's lives. He would even get down with the kids. I mean, you imagine as a parent, if somebody gets down on the level with your kid and loves on them, and then the kids run away smiling and grinning, basically saying, that man, he refreshes me. He makes me happy. You want to know what that guy's talking about. You want to know what this guy Jesus did with his life to refresh others. And here at Vision, we're also big on refreshing. We look at God's Word. We look at Jesus. We try to carry it out in our world. So let's look at this one verse back in Proverbs, written by this guy Solomon, who besides Jesus, he was the wisest man ever, and he made it real simple. He said, a generous person will prosper. He who refreshes others will be refreshed. So think about that word prosper for a minute. Okay, who in here wants to prosper? Okay, really, who wants to prosper? I mean, I want to prosper. And you're like, man, okay, I'm not all into that like prosperity gospel thing. I've heard about that. I'm scared about that. I said, wait a second. This is God's word saying how you can prosper. This isn't about a get-rich-quick scheme. This is living a life that's prosperous. I mean, don't you want a prosperous marriage? Don't you want a prosperous career? Don't you want a prosperous, mental game? You say, man, I feel healthy. I feel well. There's something to this generosity piece. And Solomon doesn't break it down, what the generous word means, but we will flesh it out today to say, what does it look like to be generous so that you can be prosperous? And then that second piece, I love this, that he who or she who refreshes others will be refreshed themselves. To me, that's good news, because I am always looking for something that can help refresh me, because life is hard. Life beats you down and sucks life out of you. What can pour life into you? What can refresh you? Well, God's word says, if you refresh others, you'll be refreshed. And Jesus, he knew this. Jesus knew about having your cup overflowing. Jesus maybe even had a Vision blue cup back in his day saying, man, there's going to be a church in Gastonia someday that will do things with cups to catch people's attention. Right, Quentin? And we got a family who's back. And the first time they lived here, they knew all about this cup, and I'll get there in a minute. But Jesus, he knew about a cup getting empty. He knew about the value of having your cup filled to overflowing so that you can be capable of refreshing others. You look through the Gospels, and Jesus was constantly going off by himself to spend time with the Father. He would spend time in prayer. He'd spend time thinking and worshiping his heavenly Father. Say, Father, I need you to fill me up. Something big's coming. I need you to fill my cup because I'm pouring it out, but I feel empty. I feel dry. And he knew to go to the source, to God himself, and get his cup filled up. So I say, okay, God, how can I do that? Because I know I have times where my cup feels just like so dry that I need help. So our bottom line today is something that you can take, any age. Teenagers, older, you can take this thing and lock it in, and it can change your next year. Because we kick off our ministry year in 2 weeks, right after Labor Day, all the way to the end of school, and this bottom line can change the way you see things. It's basically saying you're never going to regret investing your life in refreshing others. You will not have regrets for helping others to get refreshed. You're not going to come back saying, man, I wish I hadn't spoken those kind words and encouraged that person. You're not going to say, man, I wish I hadn't bought that person the line behind me lunch because, man, look at what it did. Look at how it changed their day. I don't think you're ever going to say, man, I wish I hadn't helped that person. I wish I just had held that time to myself instead of giving it to help somebody else. You investing in others for the sake of refreshing them, you're not going to have any regrets about that. Trust me, and trust Jesus, and trust Solomon. So as we look at this today, and Jesus and the blue cup, we say, here at Vision, we believe in this concept of refreshing others. In fact, we've built a culture here at Vision Church that says we're going to refresh others. We are going to love on people and care for them. And yes, it's a bonus that we will get refreshed, but we're going to do it for them. We're going to do it strategically to point them toward Jesus, and we're going to do it organically to just whenever it happens, whenever it can happen, we're going to pour into people to refresh them. You know, we want this time on Sunday mornings to refresh you. You have a week that people drain you and life drags down at you, and you say, no, I could go to my church on Sunday. I mean, literally, we have people that say, 48 hours till Sunday. Man, I can hang on. I can't wait to get up Sunday morning and get in there and get refreshed. This team, these messages, the relationships in the room can refresh you. The preschoolers, the elementary kids, our students, when they meet, they get a chance to be refreshed when God's power pours into them. When you come in and get on a team, say like our host teams, and they meet in the morning, they circle up out there and have their VIP meeting, and you hear them yelling and cheering, and they just prayed for each other, and they walk away, and they're like, man, I can take on the world. Man, I'm refreshed hanging out with these people. This is great. People that come out of Trailblazer saying, man, I loved spending time with those kids today. I served, and I feel refreshed. It can happen when you serve. It can happen when you get into a small group and you meet with some guys or some ladies or some couples, and you get together and you pour into someone, they pour into you, and you walk away from small group refreshed. God will do that. We do outreach as a church. In case you didn't know this, we have a threefold strategy of local, domestic, and international outreach. And locally, we send teams to go feed the homeless at Gastonia Street Ministry. They go out and pour and say, we're going to refresh you. And I always hear stories from them. They say, Matt, you're not going to believe it. Oh, it was so refreshing for me. It was so good. We sent a team on Monday to Southwest Middle School. We got a picture. They went on Monday, and they fed the whole staff. We had only heard about this less than a week before it when I met the new principal, and she said, yeah, our staff's coming in on Monday. We're going to have a meeting with them. I said, can we feed them? She's like, it's next Monday. I said, we will provide everything if you will let us. And we brought our team in there. We met with all these teachers and just gave them breakfast and just blessed them and said, hey, let us pour into your cup so you can know that we love you. And it was so fun, man. I got a chance to stand up in front of them and speak for just like 2 or 3 minutes and thank them and bless them, and then I had a chance to pray over them. And when I prayed, and I was like, God, bless these teachers and give them safety and give them a prosperous year and all this, and the teachers are like, oh, yeah, yes, God, yes, Lord. I was like, man, this room's coming alive. We got done praying, and one lady was like, woo, we just about had church in here. And I said, hey, if that's what it is for you, then I want you teaching my kid. I mean, my daughter goes there, so I want this kind of environment of refreshing happening at Southwest Middle. We had another team. They went across the street yesterday to Terrace Ridge, to the assisted living. They said, hey, if we make hot dogs and burgers, can we just give them away? Can we just feed the people at Terrace Ridge? And the team came on in and was smiling and loving on people and just filling the cups of residents and their families, saying, we want to bless you. We're not doing it to get refreshed, but you know what? When we refresh you, we know we will get refreshed. That's what we do here at Vision. We actually even had a project that we run. We started a couple months ago. It's called Project Refreshment. And with this project, we merely got together and said, okay, this verse, we believe it, that he who refreshes others will be refreshed. Okay, then let's take a bunch of water and go pass it out in our town. We put a little strategy behind it. We put vision labels on there and said, we're going to give these away with this little simple invite card and let people know, hey, whether you go to church or not, we just want to bless you. So a couple months ago, we got 1,000 bottles of water and came in here on a Wednesday night. And I remember the two guys who were leading it were like, Matt, if nobody shows up, man, this is going to take like 2 or 3 hours. 1,000 bottles to put labels on? What were you thinking? And they came on in, they lined the hallway, and it took 22 minutes. And they labeled all the bottles, got them all labeled, and it was so fun. Man, there was all ages, and people are flinging them around and wrapping them up, and we got it done and went out front and circled up and said, guys, let's pray that God would do something with this water. And we didn't know it, but in that minute, there was a guy, we prayed on Wednesday night. 3 days later, there was a guy up on a roof downtown. Remember I played the audio of that he came off the roof thirsty, basically saying, I need refreshment. And one of our students who was jogging through downtown, carrying bottles of water, gave it to this man. And the man even called us and said, God sent that water through you. Thank you. We came in, so like I said, that Saturday, and we had these families come in and line up in the lobby. And some of them were so new. I know these guys are right back there. They're so new. We've been here like a couple weeks. Can we do this? I'm like, absolutely. They came in and we put vision gear on them, and they took the waters out and passed them out. And we had grandmothers and granddaughters and all kind of people going around town passing out water. And we saw God work. We saw God work in the people that got it. But honestly, we saw God work in the people who gave it and came back saying, man, I feel refreshed. I feel like I've done something for God. Well, I want you to hear from a couple that was blessed by that day, by Project Refreshment. It's Mark and Melissa Clark, and they're new. They've only been here a couple months, but I'd like to invite them to come up here on stage, and they're going to share a little bit of their story. Come on, you guys. And if you visionaries, welcome Mark and Melissa up here to share their story. I have enjoyed getting to know you guys. I know it's been only been a couple months you've been here, but it's been fun, and I appreciate y'all coming up on stage, tell some of your stories. So you guys, hop on up there, and Melissa, why don't you start off telling us about the dream? Okay.
Well, I got to Vision Church, or we got to Vision Church, very interestingly, by a dream and a water bottle. In the dream, Mark and I were riding in our little 2-seater Mazda Miata, and we had just pulled up into a church parking lot. And the church was like a community. One lady was there, and she was very sweet, and we were talking to her, and we were really excited about being there. And I remembered in the dream saying, I love this church, and I love these people. Well, that was on a Friday night. On Saturday, we got up, and I told Mark about the dream. And I remember saying, I wonder why God had me dream that, because we just moved here from Florida, and we had already found what we thought was our church home. Well, Mark and I went to the gym that day, and lo and behold, we saw a lady handing out water bottles. And we asked her, what are you doing? And she said, well, we're inviting people to come to our church. So Mark and I discussed it, and we kind of saw God moving. So we decided, well, maybe we should check the church out. Well, Mark and I went in to work out, and little did I know that he went back outside, and the lady who we now know as Kathy took a picture of Mark. Well, the next day, Mark and I come to church, and after praise and worship, my jaw is about on the floor because I elbowed Mark, and I said, Mark, The lady up there leading praise and worship, she is the woman in my dream. And then Mark elbowed me and said, just 1 minute, look up at the big screen because I think my picture's going to be up there. And this is what we saw. So we know we are supposed to be here.
So, Mark, you tell us how'd that feel to hear the dream, go to the gym and get water, and you're coming in here and you're like seeing pictures and hearing dreams fulfilled that God wanted you guys here. How'd that feel?
I think it shows that God can turn your life in a different direction in a moment. So this was our moment. It was you guys did all the preparation and it paid off with us. So I thank you for whoever did that, and thank you for bringing water to the gym that day.
Absolutely. Well, with them being a part of our church now, I know God is going to work through them to refresh others, because big part of it, He's poured into their lives in the past to refresh them. So why don't you guys tell us about some of your life experience?
Well, I'm a sales guy. I'm on the road quite a bit, and I frequently would make the mistake of turning to alcohol as to numb whatever loneliness or whatever I was experiencing. And it's been a while since I've had or done that or whatever. And I think the key for me is through the self-discovery I've been through is to know that I need connections. And just like the gentleman said up front earlier, it's the people that are around you. So I saw you bunch as a friendly lot, so I'm here to be friendly and connect in a positive way and share what God has for anybody here with both of us.
Definitely. Melissa, what would you add to that life experiences y'all been through?
Yes, I'm a Christian counselor, and I really thought that I would just be able to pour into other people. I didn't know that I was actually going to go through all kinds of trouble myself. Some of the trouble is I wasn't able to have children, but God refreshed us, and now we have 2 children. They're teenagers now, and so now we need more refreshing from God for that. My mother died of cancer. We've gone through financial problems. Our marriage is fabulous now. We still have our days, but we've had a hard time in our marriage. We've been married for 27 years. So we've walked through life, and God has been with us and always shown to be faithful.
I'm looking forward to us getting to know you guys better. And as we look ahead to ministry, I see you probably involved in men's ministry. I think you've been in groups or counseling. Tell us, looking ahead, what areas you might like to be involved in ministry here at Vision.
Well, I like to take the word and share it, digest it, and glean from it, and get what others are getting out of it, and kind of share in that way. Also, as support to be there for people that need and maybe some same circumstances I've been in. Just being real, taking the mask off, and we've also helped couples communicate better through a life language course that we've taught, where it's just strictly knowing who your spouse is a little better, and that always helps. So we can help that way.
Definitely. And Melissa, I know we've talked about the care team and the value of that, and role for you in there. How do you feel about that?
Well, one of the things is, we're all human. We all go through stuff, but a lot of times we need a safe place to be able to share what we're going through, and we need to be able to connect with each other. And so I personally need a safe place to be able to share when I'm going through something, for people to talk with me and pour into me. And in the care group, we want people to be able to have that safe place where we all have that place. And so being a counselor, that kind of puts me in there. But the main thing is just being in God's presence and being filled up, and then being in your own presence and getting your own self out of the way through shame and whatever we might feel about ourselves. And just knowing that we are a masterpiece. And so that when we connect together, then we really do become that family that we're supposed to be in church.
Absolutely. Well, I encourage you guys, both today and ongoing, to meet them, get to know them, and introduce yourselves and welcome them to the family, because they're still new. But let's thank them for coming here today and sharing. Thanks, guys. All right, guys. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank
We sure
you.
appreciate that.
Yes.
Well, that Project Refreshment, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, well, hey, good news. We're going to do it again. September 30th, it's coming. Phase 2 of Project Refreshment. We're going to get 1,000 water bottles again. And our plan is 2 nights before it, on that Thursday night, we'll line up in the hallway, And it's either going to be me and Sean and Fred or all of us. So, okay, so everybody come that night and help us label 1,000 bottles, and we'll pray over them. We're going to need 20 teams that will each take 50 bottles, and it's fun. You come on Saturday, you bring a cooler, you get those water, and you just go to a spot around town and pass them out. We'll give you more details as it gets closer, but you can do it even if you've only been here a couple weeks. You can do it. So let's dig in now to this concept of refreshment and really talk about ways that you can refresh. And then I'm going to finish up at the end talking about really how you get your cup filled. Because honestly, that's what we're really all desiring is, God, how are you going to fill our cup so that we can be just overflowing and truly have joy and excitement in our life with a full cup. Now, so talking about ways you can refresh. I see 3 ways. The first is to encourage. Okay, so repeat after me. Encourage. Encourage. Okay, this guy named Barnabas, he was a guy who was known as the encourager. In fact, it came as a nickname to him. His story in the book of Acts, where the church is just starting up, and there was really like an awkward time where this guy, Saul, who had been the guy who was the persecutor of Christians. This guy, Saul, let's say it's like Michael, that this guy, Michael, who used to persecute and hate Christians, and then he comes to a point where he accepts Christ, and one comes in that door. Well, the reality is, if he has persecuted and even led to the death somebody in your family, you got an issue. You got a chip on your shoulder, a major one against him. So imagine how he feels walking in the door, trying to say, God, accept me. I believe this stuff now. And everybody's like, I don't know about that. Well, Barnabas walks up, puts his arm around him and says, come on, sit with me. Walk with me. We'll worship together. We'll get in a small group together. We'll serve together. I will help you. Barnabas was the guy where encouragement flowed out of him to refresh somebody in their moment of need. Look at this verse about Barnabas. It says, Joseph, who was a Levite from Cyprus, whom the apostles called Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. Literally, he got a nickname because he was such an encourager. So say encourage. Can you do that? Can you encourage somebody? Can you do that this week? We can. You don't have to be specially trained. You don't need special skills or talents. This week, you can be a person who says, I will encourage someone. That's a way you can refresh others. The second word is to serve. Say serve. Serve. Okay. Serve. Okay, thank you. Now, there's people throughout the Bible that served. There were some ladies in particular that I pulled out and put on your takeaway cards. You can read about these people this week. These ladies that chose to give their lives to serve others. Ladies like Priscilla, Martha, and if you're like, man, I kind of know that Martha. She's in that story, remember, with Mary, where Jesus came in their house. And honestly, Martha kind of gets a raw deal because in that story it said, well, Mary sat at the feet of Jesus, but Martha did all the stuff. It wasn't bad what Martha was doing. She was using truly her heart to serve. We seem to have that balance. But let me tell you, a lady like Martha who served and blessed people, that's how you refresh others. Other ladies like Joanna, Susanna, Tabitha, and we got a Tabitha here, and I think she serves pretty well. She does pretty good here. Tabitha and Phoebe, but you look in Acts chapter 9, where it did say of this lady Tabitha, in Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. She was always doing good and helping the poor. Wouldn't you like to have friends like that? Somebody who, in your world, they're like the ones always doing good and helping the people that are like less fortunate. Wouldn't you like to have that reputation? People said, man, that lady, she's really nice. She serves people. That is one way that you can refresh others is by serving. We've actually got a team that we're trying to continue building here. Plain and simply, we call it our moving team. What they do, they go and move people. When people need to move, we get the team together and go move them. Now, we need your help because we move a lot of people here at Vision. And in fact, if you're interested in it, then let me show you some of the guys. A pretty rough-looking crowd, but they're not bad guys. Okay? But seriously, this group here, they were moving some people recently. All the way on the right, you got Stacy, and then there's Charlie, and the next one's Tommy. So Tommy and Stacy are the guys who said, yeah, we'll try. We'll head up this team. Say, guys, we will funnel people, men and women, teenagers, kids, we'll funnel them your way. So when people need to move, we go and we serve them. We do that. And if you're like, yeah, I'd like to try that, I say, great, because we're moving 2 different families next Saturday. Okay, so seriously, we need your help. One's right over here. Yes, we need your help on this team. So if you say, I'd like some info on that, then you stop by the Connection Center. You just write on a connection card, moving team. You give them your name, and they'll follow up with you. And that doesn't mean you need to go to all the moves, but that when there is a move, we'll contact you, and if you can make it, you join us. It's a simple way to refresh others is to serve. Okay, so say serve. Serve. Can you do that? Yes, we can do that. All right, third one is to give. To give. Okay, say give. Give. All right, now the couple we're going to look at in here, the Macedonian churches and a guy named Cornelius. Remember Cornelius, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. He was a guy who had a vision that there was more to his walk than what he had. He said, okay, this guy Peter, he's going to come and tell me more about God. And when Peter came, this guy Cornelius already had a reputation of being a person who gave. Now, I'm not talking about just giving to your church. That's a step of obedience. I'm talking about a lifestyle of generosity. And these Macedonian churches were known as people that were generous. I mean, I would love to have maybe this family that's just moved to Georgia. They go to Georgia and someone says, where are you from? I'm from Gastonia. I'm from Vision Church. They're like, oh, the people that are generous. The people that feed the senior citizens and the teachers and all. Yeah, that's my church. The visionaries. Look at what it said about the Macedonian churches. It says, now, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. Hey, I would love to hear that God is giving grace to our church, that God is showing favor to our church. And honestly, from where I'm sitting, God's showing us grace. God's showing us favor. So I'd say, how did this church get God's grace? It tells us, in the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. You know, that's kind of strange because if you've ever been through extreme poverty, that doesn't usually lead to generosity. But when you tie that in with overwhelming joy, with an overflowing joy, then honestly, you can be generous. That God in that equation takes joy and even poverty and makes generosity. It says, for I testify that these guys, these people in this church, they gave as much as they were able and even beyond their ability, entirely on their own. They urgently pleaded with us for the principle of sharing in this service to the Lord's people. Understand, they're saying, how can we give? Can we help more? Is there something else we can do? Don't you love when somebody says that to you? Say, hey, how can I help? How can I assist you? The church was built on that culture. So we're going to do that here. At Vision, we'll be a church that gives. So say give, encourage, serve. Okay, can we do that? Yes, we can do that. And when we do that, that's when the principles of refreshment come into play. So imagine Jesus, and he knows that his cup needs to be full because he's got some big things to do, some serious people to pour into and bless. So Jesus knew this principle of having your cup filled. If you've never been in church or don't even believe the Bible, you could at least, I think, agree with me that sometimes your cup gets empty. And sometimes you feel so dry. You're like, help me figure out how to fill my cup. So here's how you do it. We got these principles of let's kind of call this like God's blessing. And God has got a limitless supply of it. So these three principles of refreshment, the first thing is find out what works best for you. Find out what works best to fill your cup. I mean, certainly getting in God's word, certainly praying, certainly music or serving or whatever that looks like for you, but make sure it's what's best for you. Don't sit there and say, well, you know, Mitch, man, I know he prays like 3 hours every night. I could never do that. Oh, well, you know, Tommy over here, he serves every day of the week. I mean, I could never do. Oh, man. No. The phrase that I like is that there's no win in comparison. There's no win in comparing because you compare to this guy and you'll be like, oh, man, I am pitiful. I can't do the things he does. Or, man, this person over here, they're so slack in their walk, but I'm so good. You're like, no. There's no win in comparing to her or to him. You figure out how God fills your cup. And you do it. And you trust in that. Now, the second one, though, this is tricky. The more you pour out, the bigger your cup gets. The more you pour out, the bigger your cup gets, because the reality, when we're young in our walk, we just got a little bitty cup. Okay, we got a tiny cup because we're young in our walk. But we go spend time with God, and we're like, okay, God, I'm trusting that, man, when I read your word, I'm trusting that when I try praying, or I listen to some music that gets my mind on track, or I come to church and pours it, like, God, you're filling my cup. And what you don't do then is say, okay, my cup. My cup, I got it, I'm going to keep it. Because the principle is you pour it out. And the more you pour out, the more God pours in. He goes, okay, great. You poured it out, and let me fill it again. Meet with me again. Spend some time in my word again. And God will pour into your cup again. And then this is where it really gets weird, because when you pour that out, he actually enlarges your cup. To where now you go to spend time with God, and you have more capacity. That God will pour into you even more. And he'll pour, and he won't stop at the little Dixie cup level. If you let him, he'll keep pouring in. And he'll keep pouring in. And he'll keep pouring in. And then, again, you got that tendency, though, to say, okay, now my cup, and I am really blessed. And I'm just going to kind of hold this to myself and enjoy this blessing. And God will say, well, you can. He said, but there's more if you'll trust me. There's more if you'll go to Terrace Ridge, or you'll give, or you'll serve, or you're encouraged to say, you keep doing that. He said, Matt, I will fill you up again. I got a limitless supply. I will pour into your cup again if you keep trusting me. If you keep pouring it out. And I'll say, yes, God, I want to pour that out, because I'm believing in that principle that the more I pour out, the more he'll pour in. Jesus got this. So we're trying to follow his pattern. Say, okay, God, whew, and I'm nervous about, like, actually, telling people at work about you. I'm nervous about reading my Bible more. But when I'm driving home, and instead of listening maybe to talk radio this time, I put on some music that gets me singing about you. And I feel like the way I do on Sundays. You're pouring into my cup. Like, it's more. And again, it's like, okay, now I'm in a spot where I'm comfortable. So I'm just going to keep this to myself then. And God says, that's not it. That's not the way it goes. He says, pour it out, and you serve, and you give, and you encourage. And he says, I'll meet you there again. If you'll meet me, I'll meet you. I'll pour into you. I'll pour into you more and more. You're like, really, God, more? He says, yes, I will keep pouring into you so that your cup will be filled. So that truly, the more you pour out, the more God will pour in. And that leads to number 3. And this is a tricky one, because we got some people in our life that make number 3 hard for us. Principle number 3 is it's not your job to fill someone else's cup. Okay, it's not your job that you got that spouse or that family member or that coworker. You say, God, I'm trying. I mean, I'm pouring into them, but I can't pour into them enough. Their cup's not getting filled. God says, that's not your job. That is not your job to fill their cup. Your job is to empty yours out. And when you empty it out, you come on back, and I'll fill yours again. And he says, you work that process. It's not a system. It's not guaranteed you plug in these numbers, it works. But it's a process that you work that process, and God fills your cup, and you pour it out. And there'll be sometimes you feel dry. And that's why we get together and say, hey, let me put my arm around you and you with me, and let's help each other out. God fills our cups. And with these cups, there's nothing magical about this, but God will do some miraculous things when he fills your cup. Now, 2 years ago, we did something with these cups. And man, I love it how, this family came back last week, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Quentin, what's the phrase, man? Say it loud, man. What's the phrase 2 years ago? Okay, what's up with the cup? That was our phrase 2 years ago. I distinctly remember walking outside of his place of work, and he came out the door and said, yo, Pastor Matt, what's up with the cup? We passed out. I love that. I love that passion. Because we need passion with these blue cups. We're giving you guys blue cups today when you leave. Because with this, when we did it 2 years ago, and we passed out cups and said, guys, we need to remember this. And we even need to tell other people about this. So let's do something creative with it. And we branded it. What's up with the cup? And okay, you took these cups and look what you did with them. Kids took them, and they like marked all over them. And then adults like, hey, I can mark on them too. Put a V or a verse or a smiley face. And they started posting them, with the hashtag, what's up with the cup? So they're putting them on cups. They're taking them to school. They're taking them to work. People are like hanging them on walls. People are putting them on construction equipment. They're like, Dale, what are you doing with that little cup? I said, hey, man, let me tell you about my cup. And Dale Morton would tell them about his cup. And people would take these cups all over. They even got their animals involved. Said, okay, whatever we could do to post stuff with this cup so that it'll get people talking. And people start asking. And people start wondering, what's up with that cup? And it gives you a platform to talk about that. And in that platform, that's part of God's pouring in you, and it's part of God's pouring out of you. And now some people, they even tried to get like pro athletes and stuff involved. I'm not sure if this was doctored or not, but this came out. And someone was posting this stuff everywhere. And I was like, okay, well, if Cam Newton's in it, then hey, let's go. So this year, we're taking these cups, and we're passing them out as you leave. Everybody takes one. If you got any kids that are old enough to carry a cup out of here, you get one for them too. You take your cup home. But this year, we got a different hashtag. Now, for those of you who are in the older crowd, the hashtag is the old pound sign, okay? So when you take your picture or you take it to lunch, you're going to post it, you put hashtag refresh with vision. Hashtag refresh with vision. You're not just like refreshing randomly where you're like, okay, just take the water and just like spew it all out there. You're like, no, there's some vision to this. We're actually pointing people to the source of the refreshment. So that literally today, you could take your cup and you're going to eat at Burger King, and you walk in there and you get your drink and you pour it, and then you like pour it in here, and there's like a whole family of you sitting there with blue cups. I guarantee you, someone will walk by and say, what are y'all doing with the blue cups? You're like, oh, let me tell you. Here's what our church is doing. God is the one who fills our cup. He can fill yours too. It's really that simple. So we're in this together. Refresh with vision. Because when you buy into this and say, okay, God, I'm believing that you got this huge supply and you want to pour it into me and enlarge and enlarge and enlarge my cup. If I continue to pour it out, he will do that. And in fact, God will say, will you take a stand for me? Will you actually tell somebody about this? Will you live this out in your life, this cup, this refreshing? Because remember our bottom line? You're never going to regret investing your life in refreshing other people. I promise you. You're not going to go back in 3 weeks and say, Pastor Matt, man, I'm so sorry I got involved in that thing. No, you won't. You're going to take your cup, put something on it, and this is going to be your reminder. Spend time with God, let him pour into you, and take a stand for him.